had never been close to my biological mother. Our paths rarely crossed, and she was plagued by alcoholism and what I can only describe as severe mental instability. Though I don't have all the details of her diagnosis, I know she was diagnosed with schizophrenia. Back in 2007, I was in the process of relocating across the country in an attempt to forge some connection with my mother and lend her a hand. I decided to spend a month at her place. Everything seemed relatively normal until that one fateful day when things took an unsettling turn. We were casually hanging out and engaging in conversation. My mother appeared calm and collected, but suddenly, without warning, she sprang up from her seat, screaming at someone who was apparently standing in the middle of the room. I can't recall her exact words after all these years, but it was along the lines of, "I've already told you, you're dead. No one invited you here, so get the hell out." She screamed vehemently at an invisible presence, and I was terrified, witnessing my mother's mental unraveling without a clue as to what might happen next. After approximately 30 to 60 seconds of screaming, she abruptly sat down and acted as if nothing out of the ordinary had occurred. She looked at me and said, "When they come back, you have to scream at them to make them truly understand." When the month came to an end, I packed my belongings into my car, preparing to leave. On my last evening with my mother, I hugged her and bid her goodnight. We both turned towards the hallway, walking in that direction simultaneously. As I kept my gaze downwards while walking, I noticed a pair of feet positioned in the doorway of the hallway. Raising my eyes, I was met with the intense stare of an angry young woman, appearing to be around 16 to 21 years old. She wore a floor-length plaid nightgown with long sleeves. Her complexion seemed to be Caucasian or a similar lighter skin tone, and her long, straight black hair cascaded around her. Her face bore the signs of cuts and bruises. I locked eyes with her, let out a scream, and within a matter of 2 to 3 seconds, she vanished. I swiftly convinced myself that I had simply imagined it all. To my astonishment, my mother was elated. She had seen the same apparition and expressed relief that she was no longer alone. She looked at me and exclaimed, "You saw her too. That's the girl I keep telling to leave." I met her gaze, denying any knowledge of what she was referring to. I claimed that I hadn't seen a thing and retreated to my bed. I refused to admit that I had indeed witnessed the same phenomenon as my mother, simultaneously. And in the same manner, I didn't want to associate myself with the madness that seemed to afflict her. Reading about schizophrenia, I came across accounts of individuals with the condition believing they possess superhuman abilities and can perceive alternate dimensions. This experience shared with my mother has left me questioning our understanding of schizophrenia. What if there is some truth to their experiences? What if those individuals we dismiss as crazy or homeless, engrossed in conversations with themselves, aren't as deranged as we assume? Please note that in this post, I referred to my biological mother as mother to convey the fact that she gave birth to me and we share some DNA. However, the woman who raised me alongside my father is my true mother. I hold the utmost respect for both my mother and father, who played a vital role in my upbringing. As a child of an immigrant family, our culture places great reverence on our parents. I grew up in a small town where the idea of stranger danger never really crossed my mind. Trusting and liking everyone was the norm in our tight-knit community. Even as a young child, I was taught to navigate public transportation alone or with my younger brother without any fear. The concept of an adult causing harm to a child seemed unfathomable, except for my grandma, who was an exception for some reason. Oh, the blissful ignorance of youth. When I was 11 years old, I found myself strolling alone along the beach. It was a peaceful day, and I was enjoying the tranquility when a middle-aged man approached me. He politely asked if he could take a photo of me. Naively, I smiled and agreed, thinking it was a harmless request. He swiftly captured an image with his small digital camera. Then, he made an unexpected suggestion. He asked me to remove my shirt, stating that it would enhance the photo's appeal since we were at the beach. Astonishingly, I thought it was an appropriate thing to ask, so I willingly complied, smiling once again for the camera. I felt no discomfort or fear at the time. The man attempted to strike up a conversation, inquiring about my hobbies. I happily shared my love for playing video games. To my surprise, he mentioned having a PlayStation in his room and extended an invitation to come over and play games together. If the sun hadn't been on the verge of setting, I might have considered his offer, to be honest. However, I quickly replied that I had to return to my family's room since it was getting late. Undeterred, he placed his hand on my shoulder, urging me to accompany him. Firmly, I reiterated that I couldn't go with him. He proceeded to give me a hug, bidding me farewell. At the time, I found the hug somewhat strange. As a child, I wasn't particularly fond of physical contact and valued my personal space. Nevertheless, I brushed off the encounter as peculiar and never shared the incident with anyone. Years later, during one of my moments of introspection while standing under a cascading shower, the true gravity of that encounter hit me. I realized how utterly messed up it was, and a sense of discomfort washed over me. In countless sleepless nights, my thoughts often drift to the chilling realization that somewhere out there, an unknown individual possesses a photo of me from my childhood. I can't help but empathize with those who have endured far worse experiences. The world can be a dark and unsettling place, and it's in those quiet moments of reflection that I truly recognize the magnitude of the vulnerabilities we face as we navigate our way through life. When I was younger, life on our farm in South Carolina seemed peaceful and idyllic. We didn't have many worries and felt safe within our close-knit community. But one day, an unforgettable incident shattered our sense of security and made me realize that danger could lurk even in the most unexpected places. My best friend, Lily, and I had decided to make a rare trip to the nearby store to treat ourselves to some candy. It was a sunny afternoon, and we set out with excitement, chatting and laughing as we walked along the quiet, unpaved roads. As we strolled, a car passed us, driving unusually slow. Initially, we brushed it off, thinking it was due to the rough road conditions. However, to our surprise, the car made a sudden U-turn and pulled up next to us. I felt a pang of unease as I glanced at the driver through the window. His greasy appearance and unsettling gaze sent shivers down my spine. But I tried not to show my fear to Lily. The man rolled down his window and spoke to us in a friendly tone, asking if we needed a ride. Lily, being more carefree than I was, eagerly agreed. Much to my discomfort, I hesitated, not wanting to leave her alone, and decided to join her in the car. Despite my unease, I didn't want to spoil our day with my worries. As we got into the car, the man's demeanor changed subtly, and a sense of dread filled the air. My heart pounded in my chest, urging me to get out of the car, but I couldn't find the words to speak up. I glanced at Lily, who seemed oblivious to the tension in the car. Suddenly, a strange feeling washed over me, and my instincts screamed at me to leave. Just then, a second car appeared in the distance, and the man's eyes darted nervously between us and the approaching vehicle. Without thinking, I grabbed Lily's arm and pulled her out of the car, giving a hasty excuse about needing to walk. Once we were safely away, I shared my concerns with Lily, but she seemed annoyed and brushed off my fears, accusing me of overreacting. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, but I didn't want to argue with my best friend. Months passed, and the incident with the strange man faded from my mind. Life went on as usual, but there was an underlying unease that I couldn't ignore. Then, one day, Lily visited me with a look of shock and fear in her eyes. She handed me a newspaper with a headline that made my blood run cold. Serial killer Pee Wee Gaskins arrested. As I read the article, my heart sank. Pee Wee Gaskins was responsible for numerous heinous crimes, including murders and violent acts. I couldn't believe that the man who had tried to offer us a ride that day was a dangerous criminal. Lily and I were shaken to our core, realizing just how close we had come to a terrifying fate. Our little town, once a safe haven, had been visited by evil, and it forever changed our perspective on the world. From that day on, I vowed to never ignore my instincts and to always prioritize safety above all else. I started educating myself about personal safety, attending self-defense classes, and encouraging my friends and family to do the same. The incident with Pee Wee Gaskins taught me that danger could be lurking anywhere, and it was essential to be prepared and vigilant. Looking back, I am grateful for the unease I felt that day because it saved us from a potential tragedy. Our innocence was shattered, but we emerged wiser and more cautious, understanding that danger could manifest itself even in the form of a seemingly harmless encounter. The memory of that fateful day serves as a constant reminder to trust my instinct, stay aware of my surroundings, and be ready to protect myself and those I care about. I find it incredibly difficult to articulate and cope with the situation I'm currently facing. In short, I have been subjected to unwanted physical contact while sleeping by someone, and throughout it all, my mother hasn't taken any substantial action, merely resorting to expressing her anger through text messages. She would send me screenshots of her conversations with him, but that was the extent of her involvement. It's truly frustrating because he managed to manipulate her into believing that he was simply covering me with a blanket. He guilt-tripped her, saying things like, "We can't do much if that's what she thinks because you know I'm not the type to do that. Just let her be, and pretend to be angry with me when we come home." I should mention that I've dealt with similar situations involving family members in the past. Unfortunately, I can't leave home just yet as I am not adequately prepared to live on my own, and I am still saving up. No matter how much I try to secure my room, he always finds a way to enter. I even had to hide and change my toothbrush because it was consistently used. I feel compelled to wear a bra even while I sleep. I am truly at my breaking point. One day, I woke up to the sound of a kiss near me. My mother wasn't home because she had left for work by 6 a.m. I decided to keep pretending to be asleep, and then I heard him whisper "I love you" right next to my face. I have never been so deeply disturbed and frightened to the point where my body trembled. The following day, when my mother was absent again, I purchased multiple locks, yet he still managed to gain access. Upon awakening, I continued to feign sleep and suddenly opened my eyes to find him sitting there, closely observing my face. He hastily exited the room. That was the moment I realized I had to take action because my safety was compromised. Nowadays, I sleep with a weapon by my side every night. I haven't informed my mother about these recent incidents because I know she won't believe me, sadly, and won't take any significant measures. So, if it were to happen again, I would have to summon all my courage to stand up for myself and confront him once more. By the way, this man provides absolutely no contribution to the household. He's essentially a burden. I'm the one who buys groceries and pays the bills, while my mother takes care of the rent. Allow me to recount an incident that occurred merely 5 days ago, a sequence of events that still reverberates within me. As a 19-year-old female, my parents and I embarked on a significant journey, relocating from our cramped Central Florida apartment to a new residence up north. The prospect of this move filled me with exhilaration, as it marked the threshold of pursuing my dream career and starting college in the spring. Our initial drive took us to a lodging 5 days back, an experience that left me profoundly unsettled. On the first night of our expedition, we halted at a hotel situated in a rather disconcerting neighborhood. Its proximity to a shuttered gas station, marred by graffiti-covered boards, cast an eerie shadow over the area. The setting seemed to align with narratives I've heard from my parents and witnessed on television. Places that epitomize locales to be avoided. Strikingly, my typically composed father was unnerved, the result of our room's door failing to secure properly. To assuage our trepidation, we resorted to propping a hotel chair against the door and engaging the deadbolt for a semblance of safety. However, the night had a more disturbing revelation in store. Our second stop brought us to a small town in North Carolina, where we sought a pet-friendly hotel due to our feline companions. Choosing a suitable hotel room occupied my parents, while I remained in the passenger seat of my mother's vehicle, attempting to soothe our perturbed cats. The environment was charged with heightened emotions, the collective anxiety spurred by the anticipation of reaching our new abode in the impending days. Maneuvering our belongings with the cart, we headed towards the hotel's side entrance, a decision that catalyzed a bewildering encounter. As the key card unlocked the door, an unexpected commotion ensued. A frantic woman charged towards us, her voice resonating with a desperation that still chills me to the core. Her appearance, clad in a long, dark blue jacket with disheveled hair tucked into a hoodie, immediately conveyed an aura of exhaustion or distress. Her fervent entreaties, urging us to summon emergency assistance, were underpinned by an unsettling intensity. She beseeched us with words like, "Call 911, call 911. There's something wrong with that baby." Oddly, no child accompanied her, and our surroundings revealed no signs of an impending calamity. My initial assumption veered towards a child in peril, perhaps an accident we were too preoccupied to witness. Despite the woman's persistent pleas, my mother was without her phone. In a gesture of goodwill, I volunteered to place the call. Yet, before I could, my father intervened, retrieving my phone from my grasp. The woman's urgency escalated. "It's really bad. You need to come and see," heeded by my mother's steadfast insistence that we retreat indoors and allow her to seek help at the front desk. Resistance characterized the woman's response, her initial cries evolving into an adamant refusal to seek aid from the hotel staff. As she attempted to approach our agitated cat, her tone took an unsettling turn, further intensifying our skepticism. Swiftly, I retrieved my pet, preventing any unwanted interaction. Leading her to the front desk, we hoped she would find the assistance she so fervently sought. Navigating to the elevator, we encountered an eerie stillness, a sharp contrast to the tumultuous encounter. My heart raced, my trembling hands betraying the impact of the experience. Retrieving my cat from his carrier, I overheard my parents discussing the enigmatic woman. Speculation veered from mental illness to substance abuse, the range of possibilities fueling our collective bewilderment. Admittedly, this event punctured my trust in people. I found myself on the brink of believing the woman's story, my guard momentarily lowered. Suppressing the surge of guilt and fear, I found solace in my mother's embrace. However, the night remained plagued by an underlying unease. Each creak or murmur jolted me awake as paranoia gripped my psyche. I constantly scrutinized the peephole, apprehensive of an unwelcome presence. At dawn, we resolved to embark on our journey, vowing to avoid further lodgings, peculiar encounters, or shadowy settings. During our departure, we conversed with the hotel employee present during the previous night's incident. Her account unveiled a detail that haunts my thoughts, an unignorable detail that amplifies the gravity of the situation. The woman's frantic demeanor was coupled with a syringe discovered in her pocket, a detail suggestive of ominous intentions. This revelation prompts contemplation on what might have transpired had my parents not been there. Had I surrendered my phone, would we have fallen victim to potential trafficking or robbery, rendered vulnerable by a substance-induced haze? 2 days have passed since we reached our destination, yet the specter of that harrowing night lingers. This ordeal underscores a poignant truth: appearances can belie intent, and the veneer of panic doesn't necessarily denote sincerity. I implore you all to exercise caution in your interactions, for my naivety led me to an encounter that shattered my assumptions about the inherent goodness of humanity. The echoes of that unsettling night serve as a stark reminder, an admonition that even in the realm of empathy, discernment remains an invaluable shield. In the end, I'm grateful for my safety, yearning to leave the enigmatic woman and her disturbing intentions behind.